What if the most powerful man in the country stopped his motorcade for a homeless woman in the rain? This is not a love story. It's a story of fate, dignity, redemption, and what happens when power meets the past, face to face. One rainy night, President Ibrahy Trari made an unscheduled stop on the streets of Ouagadougou. He thought it was just a detour, but waiting under a plastic sheet was her, the woman he once loved, now invisible to the world. What unfolded next was not in any policy, not in any headline, but it would become a defining moment of human leadership and a chance to rewrite one broken life, one brave heart, one nation's future. Don't skip this. Don't scroll past, because once you hear what he offered her and what she chose to become, you'll remember why stories like this still matter. He had just left a meeting that could reshape the future of his nation. In the back seat of his official black Mercedes, President Ibrahy Trari sat in silence. Outside, rain painted long silver lines across the tinted windows, blurring the city into watery shadows. His mind was heavy, filled with numbers, investment plans, and the silent pressure that came with leading an entire country at just 35. "Mr. President, there's a traffic jam downtown," his driver said. "We might need to take another route." Ibrahim's gaze didn't shift. "No," he said softly, then firmly. "Let's stay on this road. I want to see the real city, not just the polished parts they show me." The car slowed near Nation Square. Headlights bounced off deep puddles, turning the cracked asphalt into fleeting mirrors. And that's when he saw her. A woman, crouched beneath a blue plastic sheet, trying to shield herself from the downpour. Her figure was hunched, her clothes soaked and worn, her hands gripping a small paper cup. But something about her made time slow, her posture, her silhouette. The way she tilted her head, even beneath the rain. Ibrahim leaned forward. His heart stirred with something unexplainable. A memory, maybe, or a feeling he thought was long buried. "Stop the car," he said suddenly. "Sir, this isn't—" The head of security started. "Now," Ibrahim ordered, and with that single word, destiny pivoted. What happened next would not only rewrite a chapter of his life, it would reopen a door he thought was sealed forever. The car door opened with a heavy sound, swallowed quickly by the rain. Ibrahim stepped out, ignoring the downpour that instantly soaked his tailored suit. His polished shoes splashed into puddles as he walked with quiet urgency. The bodyguards hesitated, unsure, but he waved them off with a firm gesture. This wasn't a political moment, this was personal. The woman flinched at the sight of the figure approaching. She turned away, pulling the thin plastic tighter around her face. But she was too late. Her eyes met his just for a second, and everything stopped. Isata," Ibrahim whispered. The name trembled on his lips like a sacred memory. She froze. Slowly, with trembling hands, she pushed aside strands of wet hair plastered to her face. Her expression shifted from confusion to shock, then disbelief. "Ibrahim," she breathed, barely audible over the sound of the rain. Her paper cup slipped from her fingers. Coins clinked against the pavement and rolled into muddy puddles. A flash of lightning lit the scene like a camera flash, capturing two souls frozen in time. Neither of them moved. Two people, once young and full of dreams, now strangers in the middle of a storm. Yet in that moment, the years vanished. The titles, the pain, the silence, only the rain remained. "Yes," he said quietly. "It's me." Around them, Ouagadougou kept moving. Cars honked, vendors shouted, umbrellas scurried past, but within their gaze, the world had stopped. Fate had finally caught up with them. The silence between them wasn't empty. It was loud, vibrating with memories, regrets, and questions that neither had dared ask for years. Isata broke first. Her body tensed. She took a hurried step back, crouching to scoop up the scattered coins now floating in the shallow puddles. Her fingers trembled. "I have to go," she murmured, voice tight with panic. "I can't. Not like this." Ibrahim stood still, hands by his sides, not reaching for her. "Not yet. Isata, please," he said softly. "Just a moment. Just to talk." She rose slowly, avoiding his eyes. "Look at me," she whispered bitterly, "and look at you." Her arms spread slightly, as if to display the difference between them. Her soaked rags, his rain-drenched power. "We have nothing left to say." The head of security, now closer, stepped in. "Mr. President, we shouldn't stay here." Ibrahim turned slightly but didn't move. His eyes never left Isata. "I'm not asking for anything," he said gently. "Just one meal, somewhere warm, somewhere dry." Her eyes flicked to him, uncertain. She saw the sincerity. The weight of the rain now matched by the heaviness in her chest. Finally, she gave a single nod. "A meal," she said, almost in disbelief. "That's all." He opened the door. She stepped in, and the door shut on a past too painful to carry, but too important to leave behind. The soft hum of the car's engine was the only sound for minutes. Isata sat stiffly in the plush leather seat, soaked clothes pressing coldly against the luxury interior. She didn't dare lean back. Her fingers were clenched in her lap. Everything about the car, the silence, the scent of new leather, the layers of privilege, felt foreign, unreachable. Ibrahim sat beside her, watching in quiet reflection. His mind wasn't on the road or the stairs they'd attracted. It was on the girl she used to be. "The last time we were this close," he said quietly, "we were sitting on a broken bench under that old mango tree behind the school." Isata looked out the window, trying not to smile. "Do you remember what we said we'd do?" he asked. She turned slightly, eyes shining but cautious. "Open a bookstore," she said. "One with a little cafe." He nodded. "You'd run the front. I'd read too much and forget the customers." Her laugh was short, cracked by time. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "For what? For not knowing what happened to you. For not looking." She shook her head. "You had your path, Ibrahim. We all made choices. Life didn't give us the same map." A tear traced her cheek. He wanted to wipe it away, but didn't. Instead, he let the silence honor what words could not. And in that stillness, for the first time in years, Isata felt seen again. Their meals arrived, but neither of them touched the food right away. The restaurant was quiet, private, a far cry from the chaos outside. Yet the storm between them still lingered in the air. Ibrahim stared at his plate, turning the fork slowly in his hand. Then in a voice low but clear, he said, "I have something I want to offer you." Isata looked up sharply. "It's not pity," he continued, reading the question in her eyes before she spoke. "It's a chance." "A chance for what?" she asked, guarded. He met her gaze. "I want to create a foundation, a place for women living on the streets, shelter, skills training, jobs, a fresh start." She scoffed, bitterness edging her voice. "And you want me to be the charity case? The woman the president saved?" "No," he said firmly. "I want you to run it." Silence. Her face froze in disbelief. "Me? Run a foundation? Ibrahim? I don't have a diploma. I don't even have a resume." "You have something more valuable," he said. "You've lived it. You know what they go through. You understand their fear, their needs, their strength. That's what this foundation needs. Someone who truly gets it." His words weren't rehearsed. They came from a place deeper than policy or politics. For the first time, Isata didn't feel like someone being rescued. She felt necessary. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to begin again. 3 days later, the sun broke through the rain-soaked clouds of Ouagadougou. For the first time in a long while, Isata stood at the entrance of a real home. Not a shelter, not a borrowed corner. A home. The building was modest, 2 bedrooms, kitchen, a narrow but bright living room. But to her and her son, Suline, it felt like a palace. The security guard at the front smiled and opened the gate as if they had always belonged there. Isata walked in slowly, hand gripping her son's tightly. The boy's eyes darted from the tiled floor to the clean walls, to the windows that actually opened. In her room, on the neatly made bed, sat a small box. Inside was a teddy bear, worn but familiar. Her breath caught. It was the same kind Ibrahim had given her when they were teenagers, back when dreams still felt possible. Beneath the bear, a simple note read, "For new beginnings." Isata sat down, the bear clutched to her chest. Tears welled in her eyes, but this time, they didn't come from pain. They came from something else, something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. In that quiet moment, she didn't think of the nights spent hungry, or the faces that had passed her without a glance. She thought of her son. The apartment gave her shelter, but the foundation gave her purpose. In the first few weeks, Isata moved like a shadow, cautious, unsure. She kept waiting for the moment someone would knock and tell her it was all a mistake, that she didn't belong here, that it was too good to last. But no one came. Instead, emails arrived, schedules, training materials, meetings with consultants. Ibrahim had kept his word, and he was treating her not as a guest, but as a leader in training. The building chosen for the foundation was an old administrative office, worn down by years of disuse. But with every coat of paint, every broken tile replaced, something else was being rebuilt, her belief in herself. Isata attended management workshops, studied nonprofit structures, and took crash courses in leadership. It wasn't easy. There were moments she questioned everything, but every time she walked past a woman sleeping in a doorway, every time she saw a child begging for scraps, she remembered why she was doing this, and surprisingly, she was good at it. Her experience brought insight no textbook could offer. She knew how to speak to women who didn't trust anyone. She knew how to listen without judgment. She designed programs that addressed not just survival, but dignity. And Ibrahim, he didn't hover. He watched from afar, checking in occasionally, but always giving her space to rise on her own terms. She was no longer surviving. She was leading. Success has a way of attracting attention. It didn't take long before whispers started trailing behind the work Isata was doing. The foundation, now taking shape with clear programs, clean dormitories, and hopeful faces, became more than just a government initiative. It became a symbol, and behind that symbol stood a woman the public didn't recognize yet. Journalists started asking questions. Who was she? What was her connection to the president? Why had he chosen her? At first, the speculation was soft, almost curious, but soon tabloids stirred it into something sharper. Was she his secret lover? A former flame? A political distraction? The rumors grew loud enough to reach the steps of the presidential palace. And so, during a national press conference, the question finally came, bold and direct. "Mr. President, what is your exact relationship with Miss Isata Dio?" The room fell into a hush. Ibrahim didn't blink. "She is not my lover," he said clearly, his voice steady. "She is something far more important." He paused. "Miss Dio is a woman who has overcome things most of us cannot imagine. She is a leader, a survivor, and now, a builder of futures. She is a hero to our country." The words struck deep. Not just to the press, but to Isata, watching from a quiet room, her hand over her heart. He didn't protect her with denial. He honored her with truth. And sometimes, that's more powerful than love. 6 months after that rainy night, the doors of the New Start Foundation officially opened. It wasn't a political spectacle. There were no golden ribbons or celebrity appearances. But what stood at the center of the ceremony was far more powerful: dignity. Isata wore a simple, tailored suit. Not flashy, not loud, just strong. Her hair was pulled back, her posture straight, but her eyes sparkled with something deeper than pride: purpose. Behind her stood the first group of women enrolled in the Foundation's program, each one carrying a story written in pain but now rewritten with possibility. A small podium stood at the entrance. The crowd, a mix of journalists, government officials, and curious citizens, leaned in as one of the women stepped forward to speak. Her voice was nervous at first, then stronger with every word. A few months ago, I stood in the rain, without hope, without a future. But today, she paused, looking around. I stand here not as a victim, but as a woman who found her dignity again. The applause erupted. Tears flowed freely, not out of pity, but out of awe. Ibrahim sat in the front row, hands clasped, eyes never leaving the speaker. Then, for a single moment, his gaze met Isata's, and in that look, brief, quiet, steady, was everything they couldn't say out loud. Not regret, not longing, but deep, shared gratitude for who they had become together, yet apart. Outside the spotlight, Isata's days were filled with movement. Meetings, reports, counseling sessions, partnerships. She worked harder than ever, not to prove herself to the world, but to herself. But no matter how busy she was, she always made it home for dinner. Each evening, she and Sulian sat at their small kitchen table. Some nights they talked about school, other nights they just enjoyed the silence of safety. Then, one evening, Ibrahim accepted her invitation. It was the first time the three of them shared a meal, not as president and citizen, but as people, as something that almost felt like family. Sulian had set the table carefully, placing a few wildflowers in a jar at the center. Isata had cooked rice with peanut sauce, a dish from their childhood. The smell alone brought back memories. Neither of them dared speak aloud. "You haven't lost your touch," Ibrahim smiled, finishing his second plate. "My mother always said food should tell a story," Isata replied. Sulian, wide-eyed with curiosity, blurted, "Were you two in love when you were young?" The question floated in the air like smoke. Then, laughter. Warm, genuine, healing laughter. "Your Mr. President was too busy trying to change the world to notice girls," Isata teased. "And your mother was too smart to waste time on boys." Ibrahim shot back. For a brief moment, titles disappeared. The world outside didn't exist. It was just three souls sharing a simple meal, writing a quiet new chapter of their own. As the evening drew to a close, Ibrahim stood near the door, coat folded over his arm. The apartment was quiet now, except for the faint clinking of dishes being washed by Sulian in the kitchen. Before leaving, he handed Isata a sealed envelope. "The official contract," he said simply. "For your permanent position." She looked at it with quiet hesitation. "There's more," he added. Inside, along with the paperwork, was a handwritten note, short but powerful. "You believed in me before anyone else. Now it's my turn to believe in you." Her breath caught. She wasn't sure if it was the words, or the fact that they had come from a man she once loved, now standing before her not as a savior, but as someone offering her full autonomy. This wasn't charity. It was respect. "Ibra, I don't know what to say," she murmured, eyes full. "You don't have to," he replied. "You already said it, in how you've led, how you've risen." They stood there. No need for promises, no need for goodbyes. This was no longer about rekindled love or nostalgia. This was about two people, equals, building something far greater than what they had lost. She watched him leave, her fingers gripping the envelope tightly, not for security, but for what it represented: freedom, leadership, and, finally, the right to choose her own future. The year had passed since that rainy night that changed everything. The New Start Foundation was no longer a quiet initiative. It had become a movement. Women came from every province, some walking for days, holding their children's hands, holding nothing but hope. And when they arrived, it was Isata who greeted them. She was no longer unsure, no longer silent. Now she spoke at international forums. She met with ministers. She trained staff. She smiled with pride when she walked past the women learning new trades in bright classrooms that once were empty. Delegations from across Africa came to study the model. Headlines no longer asked, "Who is she?" They now read, "How did she do it?" And still, she remained grounded. One afternoon, as the rainy season returned, Isata stood alone under her umbrella, at the very corner where her life had once crumbled. She didn't cry this time. She breathed. Behind her, the city kept moving. Then came a voice, soft, hesitant. "Excuse me. Are you Madame Isata?" She turned. A young woman stood before her, soaked and barefoot, carrying a sleeping baby wrapped in a faded cloth. "They told me you could help me." Isata didn't hesitate. She reached out her hand with the same calm Ibrahim once showed her. "Come with me," she said, smiling. And in that moment, the cycle continued. Not of survival, but of salvation. Isata hadn't just found her way out of the storm. She had become the shelter others could run to. She was broken. He was busy changing the world, but fate gave them one more chance. Not to fall in love again, but to build something bigger than love. From a wet street corner to the helm of a national foundation, Isata didn't just rise. She reached back. She became the hand others could hold. The proof that dignity is not given, it's restored. And what about Ibrahim? He didn't rescue her. He believed in her. And in doing so, reminded us that true leadership is not about being followed, it's about lifting others until they can lead too. So next time you walk past someone society ignores, remember, every powerful story starts with a pause. If this touched you, share it. If it moved you, live it. Because when one woman rises, a whole generation follows.